The first program I'm going to read is called The Register. I haven't bought any books, I've been mainly reading new stuff. And inspired by the people I'm sharing a platform with, I thought I'd start with this poem because the first person who got me to write a poem was in my primary school, a teacher called Elio Cruz. Everything about this world electrified him artistically. He made all sorts of, he was an artist, he was a poet, he was a playwright. He would have been in those days called queer. We have now a wonderful contribution to overall culture with the speciality of different kinds of queer artists, musicians. I was working with Montreal filmmaker Caspar Ferrer, and they were talking about this and her angle on it. That it would have been at a time when queer was an insult, and indeed it would probably be followed often by the word bashing. We lost Jeremy Prynne a few days ago. There was a poet who was based in Leeds who was one of the early Cambridge School, John Riley, and John Riley was beaten to death in what was described in the press as a queer bashing incident. It was difficult finding information about John Riley. He's a wonderful poet, but he's dropped out of the consciousness completely. And a heartbreaking detail was why did the people attack him? And it was because he smiled at one of them. And Elio would have been subject to, I talked to his friends in Gibraltar where he came from. Very, very macho culture, even more at the time. He wrote in Janito, which is now a dying language. It's the working class language, the language of housing estates now. Very, very rich, very often working class cultures are enormously rich and ignored. But you get some sense of the richness of it from the languages I list. The register. Cross, my name means, he barked while taking ours. We got it. New class. Don't smile till Christmas. It's Spanish. My home is Gibraltar, but that name is Arabic. Jabal Tariq, or Tariq's mountain. Our own Tariq smiled. After Christmas, I learned Cruz was a writer in a language of cross relations, like song, Janito. An Andalusian Spanish base were Berber, Menorcan Catalan, Genoese, Moroccan, Sephardic, Haketia, Portuguese, Darija, Arabic, and more strains. Their vocal sounded like the music of dreams. For Mr. Cruz, I wrote my first poem. More came, and led to a crossroad of ways less travelled from my council estate that his school served. One like those where I hear Janito is mainly spoken now. Visiting mine again from university, friends there assumed I was serving time in prison or in the Navy. But I'd catch Elio after school. In later years, I sent him my new poetry books and each Christmas a rude card designed to make him laugh. My older brother Tom remembered Jib from his native Navy days. He swapped the Suez medal he hated there for a bogus Rolex he truly loved. Time meant nothing to it, like God, he sang. If you could see that it was wrong, it meant the sun had set. When I came to Leeds, the first job I had was in a cloth warehouse, and the head of security there was a bloke called Ken Kitching. And Ken Kitching had been sent to prison. 2 people had been sent to prison, 2 policemen, for mounting a campaign of torture against a man called David Oluwale, who came from Nigeria to find work. They went to jail, and it was the only time it ever happened, but they murdered him. They should have been done for his murder. This has been recently set to music by Christopher Fox, and it's in the current Forward anthology. A naraka for David Oluwale. I should explain it. A naraka is not actually a naraka. I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate anyway. The naraka is wordless. It's a kind of wordless love poem, you know. But it has the elements of what might make a naraka by somebody else. Oluwale is Yoruba, for God has come home. But he came to find hell in God's own country. No home but cold Leeds streets or police cells. In his asylum, only electroconvulsive therapy. Now, by the air, where David drowned fleeing policemen's boots, his feet light from hunger, my small nomadic cowrie garden grows for one who'd grown to be a shell of himself in this city. An empty cowrie is full of an egg with meanings. God's eyes, they make arrow codes, magic messages, because Afa, Yoruba for 6, has the same letters for the word to draw. My 6 cowries set down here draw David's Christian's ghost into Ocean's arms, water goddess with a name of water, that he too might step into the true meaning of his own name, born back to Africa, where the river of us all rose. This alchemy of cold fire on the air's earth makes nothing happen, like poetry, yet makes something from nothing for a man treated like he was nothing, making room to reflect on river water running softly. Christopher Beebles, who I've been working with, two long projects at the Grim, which I'll turn to. More recently, he did a series called The Meteor Hunters, and this poem came from that, really. It's about John Clare. John Clare was a collector of music, of tunes. He was influenced by the migrant communities, the Irish. He learned lots of tunes from them, and songs and stories. He suffered mental ill health. The David Oluwale Association, which we mentioned earlier on, that's one of his violence against people in custody, people of colour, but also mental ill health. He spent a long time in an asylum, which was really terrible in those days. Black people were treated as having a primitive mind. So he really, Clare kind of appears in this to stand in for all of those. And I have to say that when I was looking at The White Meteor, which was the painting of Christopher Woods, it reminded me of something in Clare's notebooks. And when I went to look at it, there is what he calls a white meteor. But in those days, a meteor isn't what we mean by now, grey stone falling from heaven. It was any unusual, powerful atmospheric disturbance. So it could include a snowstorm, for example, or here, will-o'-the-wisps. That's why meteorology is called meteorology, because it's named after meteors. For Stevens, Wallace Stevens, this is, for Stevens, a poem was a meteor. For Frost, it was ice on a stove. This meteor declined in language from meteoroid to meteorite. Ice burned, reem-eclipted by knocks to a napped flint axe head. My Bonham's catalogue informs me falls means meteors tracked from sky to land. Finds field discoveries where Clare found poems. So he wrote, self-consuming, woeful meteor and meteor hunter. Quote, found by Moroccan shepherds who dubbed it the White One, this fusion-crusted eucrite polymiced breccia is set in a clastic matrix, ex-solved pyroxene, calcic plagioclase. Bonham's prose crackles like the burning straw Clare heard as his white meteor came up. It seemed a will-o'-the-wisp till it magnified darkness so. I felt closed by a circle of black wall. Frit I'd fall in some glaring gulf at my feet. And I stopped it there. And when I was researching this, I discovered that the story that he told as his own experience was actually a folk story that you can collect all over these islands, Scotland, Wales and in England. And as his mental ill health deteriorated, he thought he was other poets like Byron, but he was also embodied the folk tradition in himself. It was his experience, or at least as he imagined it to be the case. Enjoy always coming to Manchester, and I enjoy coming for poets and players. And I think the last time I came, there was this exhibition on at the Whittle with Cornelia Parker, following on from Demetrio kind of thing. She was using graphite harvested from Greg's drawings to make a switch, a graphene switch. Graphene has just been invented at Manchester University. So it comes in two parts. As above, with an epigraph blade, which is very general blade, which you can imagine, so these are meteor quotes. But this is from Europe, a prophecy. And Urizen, unloosed from chains, glows like a meteor in the distant north. Graphite, harvested from blades ancient of days in the gallery, grew a graphene sensor switch, turned on by breath, like poetry from its page, to launch fireworks packed with powdered meteorite. So its art was expressed as light, like her art, but more like blades. So below, epigraph from Visions of the Daughters of Albion. And is there not eternal fire and eternal chains? Latex cast of pavement cracks, Parker took by night in secret inside old Jerusalem. Being so led, I have to ask, could those feet walk here now from Bethlehem? My tip to anybody who's writing is get inspired by things you're bad at. This has been something that has been a great resource to me. You know, I work lots with other musicians who can't sing, you know, can't play instruments. I've worked with musicians because they can, lovely hearing the harp today, you know. Terrible at art, so I love working with artists, you know. Useless at acting, so I was involved in all sorts of theatre things. And this is called the Sculptor's Present, and it was really a gift to me from a woman called Juliet Gouch, who made mobiles for an exhibition. We were working with Refugee Action Bradford, and the people we were working with their faces couldn't be shown. So there was a sort of installation where mobiles and film interacted, and we could use their shadows. And then they came to me and we did a workshop. But this was really my gift for doing it, the Sculptor's Present. I opened the box wings so a gift rises from its bubble-wrapped nest of plastic champagne. A ring in my roof beam anchors its flight now, elm planed and planing, blades on the feather. The fishing line angles, catches light, water, air, the drift of her thought, the cast net of her mind, slips mine. Language, its talking lightness, her words on my line, my words on her line. I would normally, if I was just meeting you, be wearing hearing aids, and in groups, I find it difficult to hear people sometimes. Individually, it's not so bad. But when I got my hearing aids, one of the things that was fantastic was I heard birdsong. It was just like, we screened out so many of the things around us because that's how our brain works. We couldn't listen to them all. And birdsong is one of the things that we screen out. And I also realised I was missing swifts at this time of year, when the swifts are coming back. I couldn't hear them. And there's nests for them down the bottom of the road. Couldn't hear goldcrests. So this is called Still Not, which was a celebration of my hearing aids. That's getting on. That's the sort of thing you celebrate, you know. And I have an epigraph from Kafka. I have found a new enjoyment for my free time, lying in the grass. My hearing aids perch over my ears, bass clefts, plastic and metal wings, breath marks giving me tinny pause to hear lost highs, bird music as light metal, wax-winged silver bells, bars of gold crest, steel swift cries, sickling sea blue sky for aeroplankton. I cut through thick wood below where blackcaps flute. A thrush practices scales, but I'm flat. My earbud tendrils burrow in wormholes for the song of the earth. Roots music, round bass, attention sharpened by a stone I lie on. Not yet stone deaf, still not yet stone dead. I wrote a few things about birds following on from this, and this is called Bird Brain. Hardy's thrush, I didn't know much about birds, but then when I realised how much of their song I was lost, I became really interested. And now I only really wear my hearing aids when I want to hear birds, because otherwise I lose being attentive to them, you know. I'd rather not hear other things quite so well, so that when I go out into the woods and listen to the birds, it's absolutely sensational. They wash all over me. But I think, so learning a little bit about birds, you know, Hardy's famous darkling thrush. It seems to me that on the one hand it's the song thrush because it's got a beautiful song, but it also seems to me it's the missel thrush because the storm is coming up, and the missel thrush is called a stormcock because it sings through the storm. And I thought there was, and I began looking into the folklore, the sort of more distant folklore of birds, and it was extraordinary. Bird brain. For the neuroscientist, thought flutters about our brains like murmurations. For the folklorist, a missel thrush is deaf and knows 7 languages. Missel stems from an Old English word that means shit. Turdus viscivorus, its scientific name, from its taste for mistletoe, meaning shit on a twig. Mistletoe once gave us birdlime and a proverb, Turdus malum sibi ipse cacat. The thrush shits evil on itself. Digs its own grave with a beak whose song the thrush's old common name of stormcock honours. Breaking through thunderclouds like sluggish brains or snail shells, it breaks on stones into inner weather. Press your ear to this poem's page, any poem's page, to hear 7 languages boiled down to lines set to catch a song, to write its meaning if some wit can only twig it. Right, skip the next one. Running out of time here. Skip that one too. I realise I'm missing the part that I was going to read, but never mind. Where's on the back of this one? Sorry about this lack of professional. Here we go, professionalism. Scribble art. This is weird shit, I'm telling you. You thought the last poem was weird. When I started looking into yellow hammers, I was commissioned to write something for an installation on a beauty spot. I'm part of the birds community that lived there. They wanted it from the birds' point of view. It was yellow hammers. And their nickname is Scribblelark in common name. So I thought, that's fantastic, Scribblelark, I can use that. Because their shell seems to have writing on it. Then when I looked into it a bit further, the writing is supposed to be demonic. And in a lot of these stories, like swifts are supposed to be devil birds. They're called devil birds because of their cry. So this is Scribblelark, Procruve, Droge, bad egg, bad bird. And I think I'll stop it because it's 4 o'clock now. Which is an Irish proverb. Procruve, Droge, bad egg, bad bird. And that means that's really a sense of something demonic lying behind us. At wakes, the sin eater got cheese and bread, taking with them the misdeeds of these dead and saving souls, soaked in hope from hellfire. He was paid well, but became a village pariah. A little bit of bread and no cheese, this bird sings, the bird the villagers know as the scribbler from its eggs with their griffonage figurines. They fear this is scripture from Satan's book, as on May days the birds suck Satan's blood or draw snakes to their nests for an evil feast. A scribbler chicks, not bread nor cheese, not the night black wine nor sins of the dead. Scribble hatching inside my skull-edged wall, I spell unsaved poetry called up from my hell to this waste paper nest to draw the ink snakes. Dark rhymes leak from where my shell breaks. Thank you very much for listening.